If you bought a car last year in 2025 that was assembled in the United States, and you're really counting on a big tax deduction this year at tax time, slow down for a second, because I just watched a deduction disappear after the paperwork really looked perfect. It was all the paperwork we needed. And this is exactly how people get burned when they file a little too early. There's this newer tax deduction that allows certain taxpayers to deduct up to $10,000 of interest on a qualified motor vehicle as long as that vehicle meets the requirement and your income falls below or within the allowed limits. Married filing joint, I think it's $200,000 adjusted gross income. So naturally, people hear U.S. made car, maybe not. Finance purchase, yes. And interest deduction, yes. And they assume everything lines up. And they think, I just financed more than $10,000. So I'm just gonna take the maximum deduction. This year, it's on this brand new Schedule 1A, okay? Look out for that, Schedule 1A. So this is where the assumptions kind of go sideways because this deduction is not based on how much you finance. This is based on how much interest you actually paid during the year. Some people might think this is just a click of a box. There's enough math involved to think about it. So these are two very different numbers when you're thinking about the amount financed and the amount of interest you paid. So early loan paperwork often shows the total loan amount, the estimated interest, and a payment schedule projection. And that's all it is. It's a projection. But the IRS doesn't care about projections. They care about actual numbers. They care about what was actually paid. And this is the problem because as tax professionals, we were told these people financing the loans, they might not have the necessary paperwork submitted to the IRS. So here I have a taxpayer. She comes in, she financed a vehicle that qualified under the rules. Final assembly, South Georgia, okay? Income, they were way below the $200,000. Well, I don't want to say way below, they were within the limits. Everything looked clean. The financing paperwork suggested that enough interest was claimed or taken. It looked like they might qualify for the max deduction when I looked at things on the surface. So at first glance, this seemed like everything was straightforward. Then a couple of days later, after we e-filed the return, a little piece of mail arrived. It was a 1099 INT from the company that financed the vehicle purchase. So the form showed that the actual interest paid during the year was just under $2,500. Oops, not even close to $10,000, which is the maximum deduction that you can take in tax year 2025. Same car, same loan, same taxpayer. That's a very different deduction. You know what I'm saying? So this happens for two main reasons. This is a brand new tax law. It's never been challenged. And not every auto lender issues a 1099 INT, at least not right away. So sometimes it arrives later than the filing season ever happens. Sometimes taxpayers don't even expect it at all. Sometimes it doesn't really matter, but this year it does. So only the early filers had these loan agreements and dealer paperwork and payment schedules put together to come in at tax times. So these documents are not authoritative for tax reporting, but we were told to rely on whatever the taxpayer gave us. Second, interest deductions are year specific. Even if the loans will generate $10,000 of interest over time, that does not mean that you get to deduct all of that interest in year one. So the IRS this year is only going to allow what was actually paid during tax year 2025. Oops. This is exactly why we slow things down and verify documents before filing. If you bought a car in 2025, hoping for a large deduction or something like that, something that feels too good to be true, you should pause. Get some clarity first. If you want help reviewing before you file, you can scan or click the QR code right over here. Schedule a time with us. No pressure. It's just a way to make sure that you're not creating a problem without realizing it. Here's where rushing can really cost you a lot. If you file using estimated interest amount and later the IRS receives a 1099 INT showing a lower number, and that's the actual number, you've just created what's called a mismatch. The IRS has a way of matching up your return with the amount somebody says that they claimed. So this triggers IRS notices. They reduce your deductions, repayment demands, or penalties, or the unnecessary back and forth that you get with the IRS sending you a letter and saying, we need another 60 days to take a look at your tax return, but you might be in trouble. None of this is worth rushing to return just a few days or even a couple of weeks, especially when these new deductions are involved. So the IRS pays closer attention to the new rules, not less. Even though they have fewer people working, they've got smarter computers on the job. So here's your takeaway. Wait for the final tax documents when interest is involved. And understand that deductions are based on interest paid, not loan size. And last of all, be patient. Filing early is always nice. Feels good to get it out of the way, but filing accurately is way better. This isn't about one car brand or one lender or one taxpayer. It's about understanding that new tax deductions come out and they come all with all kinds of traps. And the IRS always gets the final numbers, whether you like it or not. So if you're buying a new vehicle or you bought a new one in 2025 with that interest deduction, or you just want a second set of eyes before filing, that's what we do every day. You don't have to guess and you don't have to learn the hard way. Got this taxpayer. She pulls up with this paperwork and she says, "Hey, I just got a Kia." Oh, it is manufactured in the U.S., manufactured in South Georgia. We were able to look up the VIN number on her purchase agreement, and we found out that it was manufactured in the United States. So this vehicle qualified. And then we were told these financiers of vehicles may not be on the ball with this brand new tax law, so you may not get that 1099 INT. So take whatever your taxpayer gives you. My taxpayer gave me $10,000 worth of interest. There it is right there. And guess what? Paperwork comes back 3 days after we e-filed. Here's a 1099 INT. Holy cow. We're stuck. We have to amend that return, reduce her refund. She already owed more. Gambler, that happens. But it's crazy what happens with new tax laws. The IRS doesn't mean to pin you in the corner with them, but they have the last say on this stuff. So watch out with this new tax law because it can sting you in the behind really quickly and easily. So make sure that you have actual tax documents. If somebody's giving you car loan documents for a car to get that new tax deduction, encourage them to file an extension to make sure and see if there's going to be a 1099 INT. In this case, there was one, and my taxpayer has to have an amended return. We didn't rush things, but we wanted to get it done as soon as possible. I hope this video has been helpful and helps you understand the new federal tax law that allows you to deduct $10,000 on a car that was manufactured in the United States and you purchased it in 2025. I don't know about the other years because I'm just thinking about this tax year. I hope that's been helpful.